It feels like somebody wants to sell me something!
I told you he was on to us!
Okay, so this is the 4th time we are here now, as you guys really just enjoy this gimmick. So, I guess we're about to find out, can you beat Fallout New Vegas while being chased by Private Kowalski and Malcolm Holmes? As I've already done videos on being chased by Kowalski and Holmes individually, I can't imagine I need to explain much here. But, just in case someone is watching this before the others, I'll quickly go over what's about to happen. Basically, both of the aforementioned characters will run towards the player after you perform a certain action. The objective of this run is to beat the game before either of them can catch up and talk with me. Should that happen, the run is over and the video will end. There are no second chances for this kind of run in my eyes. I also can't fast travel on this run, as let's be fair, I could just zip away to a new location as soon as I saw either one of them on the horizon. One thing I will note before I begin, at certain times I will need to pause the game, make a save, and then use the in-game wait function to make sure they're still following me, as there is always the possibility that they may get killed during their travels, usually by the boomers. So if they approach me after I wait, then I know they're still following me, and then I can load back to the safety save, and if not, I'll need to load back even further until I find the save where they're still hot on my heels. Now, with all that out of the way, let's begin. If you've been around here for a while, you know where the creation process is going for this kind of run, as I can essentially play the game however I please with little in the way of restrictions. This means I'm speccing into a melee weapons build and then having a little extra in intelligence for more skill points, along with taking survival as a tag skill, because once I hit level 4 and get a survival skill of 45, I will have access to the travel light perk, which gives me an extra 10% of my running speed as long as I'm wearing light armor. For traits, I then take Wild Wasteland and Heavy Handed, because why not? I drop everything that was given to me by the DLCs as soon as I can, as I don't feel like abusing them this time around, and then I head to get things started right away. Last time I did this, when it was just Malcolm, I ran down to Gene skydiving to get my first star bottle cap to start the challenge. However, after I posted that video, you guys were kind enough to let me know that there's in fact another star bottle cap in Goodsprings, meaning I can start the challenge a little faster. After mentally preparing myself, I grabbed the bottle cap, and now the challenge has officially begun. Sort of. I still need to get Kowalski to want to scold me for war crimes before I can even think about starting the main quest, or doing anything really. With that in mind, it's time to head out of Goodsprings and take my usual route through Hidden Valley and Black Mountain towards Boulder City. I also stop off at the abandoned shack near Goodsprings to grab a few extra supplies, mainly the golf club and a machete. Golf clubs have served me well in the past, and this time is no different as I immediately put it to good use to beat up a rad scorpion. Not satisfied with just one dead arachnid, I decide that I'm going to put a serious dent in the nearby bark scorpion population. If for nothing else, they are great for early game experience. I make sure to grab the NCR armor just in case, although I don't wear it yet as it will slow me down, and I obviously want to remain as fast as possible. Nothing happens on the way to Boulder City, so as soon as Kowalski decides to pop into our dimension, I shoot the memorial, and now the run can truly begin. Now, the smart move would be to head for Vegas, kill Benny, and begin working with Yes Man. But I did that during the individual version to this run, so I wanted to try something a little different. So, to that end, I'm going to side with Mr. House. This means I would have to kill the boomers in Brotherhood, as you can't just meet them like you do in Yes Man's quest and be done with them. Plus, given the nature of this type of run, I don't want to be hanging around the Hidden Valley bunker or Nellis for far too long. Especially Nellis, as I will kill Kowalski and Malcolm if they see them, forcing me to load back. This meant I would need a pretty good weapon if I wanted to deal with both factions as fast as possible. And after getting tossed around like a chew toy by some bighorners, I decided exactly what my plan of attack would be. From where I am now, I will head northwest and follow the road to Jacobstown, making sure not to stray too far from the path unless I wanted to become Cazador food. I would then help Dr. Henry with his stealth boy problem so I could briefly employ the help of Lily to fight through the Night Stalker cave, where I could then retrieve my absolute favourite weapon in the Fallout series, the unique super sledge, oh baby. After getting the meld, I would then complete the quest for the experience, before returning back down the road and taking the monorail at Camp McCarran, which would drop me off in Vegas. I would then take the chip from Benny, give it to House, and be told to head to the fort. On the way, I would head to Nels first to deal with the boomers, and then I could head south towards the fort, and then circle around the Hidden Valley, and finally back to Vegas. Following this path, I came across some dead fiends at Camp McCarran who I could strip for their valuable armor. It didn't mean much though, as I replaced it almost instantly after I caved in the skulls of 2 Westside Militia for some leather armor. As mentioned, I don't stray from the road towards Jacobstown, so I don't have to fight anything that's out of my league. I got into a minor disagreement with some mantises, but I was able to come out on top. Talking to Henry, I start the Guess Who I Saw Today quest and can now recruit Lily. While there is no real reason why I couldn't have her with me the whole run, I decided that I would just have her around until the end of this quest and then dismiss her. I am glad I brought her though, as I underestimated how strong the Night Stalkers in this cave can be, especially at level 2. I thought that using Lily as a distraction and running straight for Oh Baby would be a good idea, as then I could do more damage against Night Stalkers. Turns out it wasn't, as they all just ganged up on me in the last area of the cave. Next attempt and the two of us clear out the Night Stalkers, but Oh Baby is nowhere to be found. I looked it up and apparently, sometimes it just might not spawn. Thankfully, reloading and running through the area again fixes things, and now I can start being useful. Considering this is one of, if not the best melee weapon in the game, I can now take out the Night Stalkers in 2 hits, as opposed to about 7 or 8. Making it back to Henry, and I lack the speech check to resolve the situation peacefully, and while I'm not too keen on it, I put my new weapon to work to slaughter the Nightkin. This gets me enough experience to hit level 4, and now I can access that 10% increase to my running speed. This is noticeable immediately as I begin to run back down the road from Jacobstown. I was anxious the entire time as I was afraid both of them would be somewhere along this path, as it's one of the only ways they can come. Thankfully, I never bumped into either one of them. As expected, I lack any funds to make my way into the strip the normal way, so I just put the NCR uniform from Black Mountain to good use as I board the monorail. I didn't get this weapon for nothing, so when it's time to confront Benny, I just enter the top swinging. Unsurprisingly, it makes very short work of all the chairmen, Benny, and any of the gamblers who were unfortunate enough to get caught in my XP hungry gaze. With the chip in hand, I should head straight to house to get a move on. But let's not pretend like I don't want to soak it in some Omerta blood. I don't really have much to say about this, other than I was having a lot of fun doing it. When I get to the Lucky 38 after having my fun, I make the risky play of resting for an hour to heal up, albeit letting them get closer. Luckily, I don't think they can get inside the Lucky 38, but I don't want to chance things. After watching the demonstration, it's off to continue on my plotted course, where I briefly get distracted by this king, who may have mixed up Elvis Presley and Michael Jackson. I then sell all of the guns loaded from the Omertas and Chairman for a stupid amount of money, which I then turn into stimpaks, before deciding now was a good time to save the game and check if they were still following me. Luckily, they were, and when they pulled me out of the menu, they were standing back to back, and for some reason, all I could think of was this. Having confirmed they were still hot on my heels, I loaded back and made a quick stop off at the New Vegas clinic for just a few extra stimpaks and doctor's bags. After all, I'm about to fight the boomers, so I imagine it won't be long before my skeleton comes flying out of my body. By this point, I of course know how to get through here without getting hit, but as mentioned before, I don't exactly want to just wait around. This led to a few unfortunate accidents, I will say. After being delegged a few times, I decided I would just wait until the gap in the first bombardment, and rather than run straight for the gate, I sought out the dead Brotherhood members as I needed their holotapes to access the bunker on my way back from the fort. When I am face to face with Pearl and her guard, I let them get a taste of the super sledge, and unsurprisingly, things go in my favour. Right outside, I manage to one-shot Raquel before she has a chance to figure out what is going on, and then I make a quick stop at the clinic where I do the right thing and free up some of the beds for the incoming patients. All that was left now was Jack and Loyal, and I was fortunate enough to encounter them right as I entered the hangars. This is good, as it forces them to use melee weapons, as they tend not to want to use their explosives in close quarters. While Jack goes down quick, as expected, I was taken aback by the fact that Loyal was able to take multiple hits from Oh Baby and still stand. Something that no one had really been able to do as of yet, I might add. It didn't save him for long, however, so with Loyal's brains painting the walls of the hangar, my work here was done, and now all I had to do was leave. Which, as it turns out, was a lot more difficult than I had initially anticipated. Usually, when I genocide the boomers, after I'm finished, I would just fast travel back to where I need to go next. That's obviously not allowed this time, so I have to leave the same way I came in. Meaning, I have to get past not only one dude with a grenade launcher, who has a fairly good aim with it I might add, but also this one boomer with a missile launcher. I don't need to explain why I had trouble taking these two out with a melee weapon, just charging them as is would always lead to me getting turned into a meat rocket. The strategy that got me past these two was actually fairly simple, and I'm a little embarrassed it took me as long as it did to think of it. Essentially, I would just stand behind this container here and wait for them to approach me. This meant that just like Jack and Loyal before them, they would be close enough that they would be hesitant to fire their weapons, and better yet, I could use my increased speed to quickly zip towards them and get the kill. With the boomers wiped out, I now began the long walk to Cottonwood Cove, in which the whole time I was looking over my shoulder, as by this point Kowalski and Holmes could be anywhere, as I'd spent a decent amount of time in Nellis. On the journey south, I ran into the same golden gecko from the private Kowalski video. This time, rather than get depressed, he just died. He was only one of the many wasteland creatures who felt my wrath on the way, as I also made time to stomp out all the ants outside of Helios 1. What can I say, I guess I've still got a bit of the mechanist in me from the Fallout 3 playthrough. They don't pose a threat at all, as after I kill the first one, I just eat his innards and get a sizable boost to my fire resistance, which just allows me to tank all of their hot takes with no issues. Okay, so, when I got to Cottonwood Cove, the original idea was to just play along with Caesar so I could quickly just run down and activate the secure transfer house and be out in a moment's notice. However, it only now just occurred to me that while Malcolm can run up to me no problem here, Kowalski is of course flagged as being part of the NCR faction, meaning once he gets here, he will attack the Legion on sight, and vice versa. Considering the run is null and void if either Malcolm or Kowalski dies, this meant that in order to make sure Kowalski would survive, I'd have to get rid of all of the Legion at the Cove, one way or another. Now, I could have probably just dropped all the irradiated barrels on them and called it a day, but I mean, I didn't run all the way to Jacobstown to get this weapon for nothing. This ended up being the fastest I have probably ever cleared out the Cove if I'm being honest. As you can see, most go down to just 2 swings, so they never really had time to fight back. I even got a fancy new hat to wear once all the murder had stopped. The Legion at the fort don't fare any better. In fact, they probably did worse, given the much more enclosed space of the camp. This also extends to Caesar and his Praetorians. Normally, I would lure them outside of the main camp, but this time, they were trapped in here with me, not the other way around. To give Caesar some credit, he managed to take a mauler strike in Vats and still stand, which is actually quite impressive. That said, when he tried to block the follow-up attack, it didn't do him any good, and as such his head exploded. I then took my rightful place on Caesar's throne, before remembering this is a very time-sensitive challenge, and proceeded into the bunker. The protectorons and turrets were all complete pushovers, so I was in and out in the blink of an eye. Taking the raft back to Cottonwood Cove, and I made sure to hold back on the stick during the loading screen, so that I would run straight into the water when I loaded back in, just to be safe should Kowalski or Holmes be ready to greet me. They still had not managed to catch up, which was a relief, meaning I could continue on with my next task, which was of course the complete annihilation of the Brotherhood of Steel. While the trek from here to the Hidden Valley bunker was long, it was mostly danger-free. Only 2 moments really stood out. First off was when I got about 50 feet away from the Cove, I got jumped by a band of Legion assassins. While decently tough opponents, this was honestly a blessing in disguise. The reason being, one of them had a super sledge, so I was able to use it to repair my own, as well as more fancy Centurion helmets for me to wear. I feel it goes without saying that I want my equipment in the best shape possible before attacking the Brotherhood. As for the second encounter worth mentioning, due to the path I took to get back to Hidden Valley, I ended up coming past Helios 1, so I decided to go up and through Scorpion Gulch. Keep in mind I was able to take out Bark Scorpions and Rad Scorpions at the start of the game with a golf club, so with the improvements I have made now that I'm level 12, those being my obvious weapon upgrade and perks like Super Slam, I can very easily batter them around without a care in the world. As I enter the Hidden Valley bunker, I make a save right before the Brotherhood arrive, as even after all these playthroughs, I never quite know how this fight's going to go. Well, lucky for me, this time around it's one of those days where I'm able to decimate them without breaking a sweat. Oh baby is powerful enough that it can essentially bypass all the protection from their power armor. That said, the turrets down here still prove to be some of the strongest enemies in the game. I honestly do not understand why they are as strong as they are, it's insane. Even though I was going to blow up the bunker with the codes anyway, I still made sure to go around and kill everyone myself. If for nothing else, the experience yields would be worth it. The best part about all of this is that I was able to send Elder McNamara to the moon. After cleaning up the last of the scribes, I entered the codes, made my way outside, and now all that remained was to return to Mr. House. I never spotted either of them on the way back to Freeside, but I have a feeling that they're probably close by. As I make my way back to the Lucky 38, I'm able to report all of my success/failures to House in one fell swoop. Plus, thanks to never increasing my reputation with the NCR, I don't even have to help the President either, which is great as it saves me at least one trip back and forth across the Mojave. Sadly, I still had one last trip to make as I basically just had to repeat the run I just did from Hidden Valley as I need to make my way for the El Dorado substation as the final quest before I get sent to the dam. As I suspected, just like in the runs before this, as I'm having to essentially run back on myself here, I'm able to spot both Kowalski and Holmes. I'm actually a little surprised that they're with each other, because as you can see, Kowalski is lagging behind quite a bit, given the fact he chooses to run with his weapon out at all times. There are a couple of close calls here and there that are mostly my fault as I try to use the old trick of luring them up to the bridge and jumping off at the last moment to create as much distance between us as possible. It worked to lose Kowalski, but Holmes was still right behind me as I approached the station. There's a small ridge I run off to get to the substation, meaning Malcolm will need to find a safer way down, which helps to buy me even a little time. I then run around the right hand side as to cut down on backtracking and follow the same path as it is by far the safest option. As persistent as ever though, Malcolm wasn't giving up without a fight and managed to actually catch up faster than I thought. I was able to give him yet another bridge slip though, and from that point on, he would have no hope closing the gap between us as it's just a straight line from here to the strip with no shortcuts for him to abuse. With that being said, I make it back to House while managing to avoid them both, which then teleports me to the dam, effectively winning me the run as I'm uncertain whether they can actually reach me here, and even if they can, I have essentially just teleported to the other side of the map, so they have a lot of ground to cover. Regardless, I still choose to finish up the game as I effortlessly smack a path through both the Legion and the NCR's defences. When it comes to the Legate, I don't even give him a chance to talk, as realistically, why would I managed to land a Super Slam strike with my very first hit, which, coupled with the strength of this weapon, means he never even gets the opportunity to stand back up and dies shortly after. All that leaves is General Oliver, who has far less defenses than Lanius, so I don't think I need to go into much detail of how that went. While dismembering the General, I am approached by House, ending the game and proving yes, you can indeed beat Fallout New Vegas while being chased by Private Kowalski and Malcolm Holmes. That was a nice fun short run. From the get-go, I didn't actually expect this to be too difficult given my experience in doing both of these challenges individually before. That said, I have seen this video suggested a bunch of times over the past year, so I knew I had to make it for you guys, and I really hope you all enjoyed it. Regardless, that's going to be in this challenge video. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider giving the video a like and interested in more challenges in the future. Feel free to subscribe to have one of these videos out every week. My name is Nerbit, stay safe everyone, I'll see you all in the next video.